Go. Call to order. Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. How about a roll call, Dahlia?
Chris Henriksen.
Here.
Steve Carter.
Present.
Susan Schneider.
Present.
Sharon Hesselbeck.
Present. Okay, we have a public hearing. There's no public. So we're gonna talk about these amendments, the first one being on the planning and zoning. The Village of Sunrise Beach is proposing text amendments to zoning code Article 3 administration, subdivision regulations, Article 4, general provisions, and Article 5 procedures. The amendments provide for revised revisions relating to the zoning officer authority, the zoning permit procedures, and revised provisions relating to review approval of subdivision plats. Commission review and recommendations. Steve, I'm gonna let you go ahead and explain what that means. I've already looked at it and I'll just see if I have it right while you're talking.
Okay, so I'll try to cover it, but also try to make it quick. The zoning code right now has certain provisions relating to what is called a zoning inspector, and I'm proposing to change it to zoning officer. That area is just really pretty, it's kind of minimal, I would say, the changes here. The zoning inspector, what's on the books right now, has some language that relates to actual building code enforcement, which we don't do. We don't have any building codes. The zoning officer classically is the person that basically serves as the administrative officer for the Planning and Zoning Commission. Helps prepare the meeting agendas and puts up the packets and takes any applications we may get. Such as what we received, recently with the annexation proposal and so forth. So I think this is just what I would call kind of a cleanup item. Makes it more clear what the zoning officer role is, and what it's not. We don't do actual building inspections. And we just don't even have any building codes, of course. The city here doesn't. And so what else?
Section 4.
Yes, well, zoning permit. So this I think is kind of important. We do have a requirement in the code right now for a permit, and it's a little bit unclear, to be honest, is exactly what to call it. However, they have for many years, I think, called it a zoning permit. And the way we've enforced it is if you're building new, you have to get a zoning permit from the city that says, yes, your project is in compliance with city regulations. I've issued 2 or 3 at least. We've done a few of these. And so again, they come in and say, here's what I'm proposing to do. It's very basic what our review is. We just make sure that it meets the requirements of the zoning district. If it's a commercial building, is it a building that's permitted within the zoning district? And then does it meet the setback requirements? And those are really the things we check. Now, at the meeting I think it was in March, if I'm recalling correctly, or maybe it's in February now. Yes, probably was February. There was some discussion about having certain projects come to the Planning and Zoning Commission for review, like just called a strip mall, for lack of a better word. I still believe those types of projects, frankly, ought to come through, but that would require revising the code rather significantly. We just don't have much in the code right now that relates to how we would review that. And so the zoning permit provision that I'm proposing is what I would call like step 1. It would require that we administratively review any proposal like that. If we want to go to the next level, we can, but that just requires that we revise our codes a lot more significantly.
Well, it came up with the trunk subdivision, and that's where this minor, major subdivision part of that, didn't that come up during that?
Sort of, yes. I'm really talking about more about commercial development, right? Let's just say we had a fast food operator who wants to come to town and take a vacant parcel and build new, right? If we get that proposal right now under the zoning permit provisions, we check it for, do you have a MoDOT permit for Highway 5, for example? If it was off of 5, then it would be a question for ourselves. I mean, is the ingress egress off of Beechwood, for example, is it gonna work? Does the project meet the setback requirements? Is there enough parking? I mean, honestly, right now, that's all we have on the books. I think we ought to, in my opinion, have a little bit more review there. We ought to be able to take a look if there's any proposed landscaping. You might want to put a little bit of requirements in relating to some landscaping and screening. Beechwood's a great example. If you have commercial up against residential, you frankly, in my opinion, at least ought to have either a fence or maybe a landscape barrier between the two. What else? Stormwater is a question mark. At minimum, we have to be able to review the plans and make sure you're not dumping water on your neighbor. And right now, there's nothing in our code. It just, there's one little reference to state requirements, which to my knowledge, I don't think there really are any particular state requirements for stormwater.
Well, you talked about revising the planning and zoning, like where we need to one at a time, so this is just the
This
beginning
is
of that.
kind of the first step.
Okay, do we have to recommend something to the board?
Ultimately, yes, it has to go to the board, trustees for approval by ordinance.
Well, once those are in place, then it's a matter of just deciding whether it's being correctly implemented. Whereas this, we're more of an advisory thing, so if we don't have the parameters, there's really not much to advise.
That's
the gist of it.
That's basically exactly right. And I don't want to overregulate, trust me, I don't. But I also think there's a time and place where some sort of basic review ought to come through the city here. And right now, honestly, the only thing that really is subject to review in our code is a subdivision.
Well, if those provisions were put in place, like the barriers that, that were, for instance, as you were saying, we would at least be able to review that and sort out things that didn't meet even those few items
Yes.
before it went forward for a vote
Yes.
beyond this advisory panel.
Right.
That's the
Yep.
goal of that.
That would be my goal, yes.
Well, and I think we should keep recommending to the board to let these changes happen, because you remember when we went through the cell tower thing, we had nothing on the books for cell towers. So those are things that we're gonna have to deal with in the future again, so we might as well start working on it step by step as we meet. So it does need to go to a vote?
Or
just
the proposed.
A
text
motion to
amendments.
recommend to the board to put this in the planning and zoning?
One other thing I'd like to make sure you all understand, any subdivision by law has to be approved by the board of trustees, okay? And it needs to be reviewed by planning and zoning. So that will not change. Just needs to stay that way. And I mean, any subdivision from a simple lot split all the way on up to big residential development. So all those will still come to you. The difference between major and minor is what requires an actual mailed public notice to the adjacent property owners and publication in the newspaper of all that. And in my opinion, the more minor subdivisions should be very basic. It doesn't require all that. notification of the landowners. And no actual public hearing published in the paper. The major subdivisions are bigger, they're, more in scope, sometimes they can be a little bit more, they can change the character of a neighborhood, honestly, the big ones. So those are fine, I mean, they should, your neighbors should get notice on those. But when you talk about little minor subdivisions, it's just very minor, it's 3 or 4 lots. There doesn't require any new streets, doesn't require extension of utilities. These are mainly what in my experience, people want to split off a few lots for a couple houses, this or that. I mean, it's not like a major subdivision. So I think a distinction there would be helpful.
And how is that major and minor defined?
It's in there, let's see. I think,
You're gonna stay with what the existing distinction between the two are, it's just the notification
well, there isn't a
It's in
distinction
Article
right
4.
now.
or,
Yeah. The way I've written it is anything that's 5 or more lots
okay, I saw that.
would be a major. If it's less than 5 and there's no extension of public utilities or new public streets, then it would be called a minor.
And then it would have the no notification as opposed to 15 days.
Correct.
So you're not saying we need a notification for the minor, that is still,
Yes,
okay.
exactly. It. But again, it all still comes through you. Really what it gets down to is kind of technical. It's really about how much notice is really required. If somebody comes in today with a small little subdivision, we just schedule it for next meeting, it would be pretty simple. If it's a bigger deal, it's a more, obviously, then that typically takes a lot longer lead time. You have to publish the notice and so forth, which is, you should do, I think.
So basically what we're doing here, this is just an ordinance amending ordinance 9-10.
Right.
So we need a motion.
So we need a motion to recommend to the board that they do it.
I'll make a motion that we recommend to the board.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
I,
Aye. I apologize, we did not, vote on the minutes being accepted too, from last, whatever the meeting was.
Oh, it's not listed as agenda item. That's my bad.
Yeah,
Yes.
so can I have a motion to accept the minutes from February?
make a motion, we accept prior month's meeting minutes be accepted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving right along. What was B, commission review and recommendation? Is that part of this?
For the voluntary annexation and zoning?
No, B on number 3B, you have
Oh.
commission review and recommendation. We've
I
already
just put
done
it
that.
up there. I mean, it's a public hearing and the commission
Okay,
has to take it.
got it. Okay, number 4 is proposed voluntary annexation of Prestige Lakewide LLC, Frankie and Louie's Beachfront Bar and Grill, and Deer Valley RV Park. Did everybody have a chance to take a look at all the information?
Yes, I did.
This is voluntary annexation, so I think we've already kind of talked a little bit about it. We're not providing water and sewer. Basically, we
It's
have
just
a
an
plan,
extension of our PD.
an extension of the PD services, and also we're paving Deer Valley Road all the way to Frankie and Louie's rather than that little piece that we had originally talked about.
Yeah, just real quick. So
What's the distance on that road going in there?
it's about a mile from 5 all the way down. So there's really 2 things. One, they propose to voluntarily annex, there's many parcels. And you guys got that in the report. And then they're proposing also or requesting certain zonings. And it's the same situation as what we just went through. The Planning and Zoning Commission has to review that, make a recommendation, and then the board ultimately takes action.
Is that road that's there now, it's private, right? Or is that county maintained?
City until what, the apartments?
Correct.
And then
just-
county up until Frank, so you guys are just taking the county portion, I think, is right? County stops right around the Frankie's.
Yeah.
Parking lot.
So we are, that is a county road after the little bit that's in the city limits right
Right.
now. Did we have to talk to Camden County about that?
I
No.
mean, we have.
I'm sure they're happy if we're gonna pave it.
I'll give it up in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, typically the annexation orders would say that we're annexing the roadway. And honestly, I mean, I think some notification then is fine. And I haven't done it here, but in my past experience, counties are happy for cities to annex
Sure.
roadways.
Yeah, takes them off the hook for it.
The engineering firm,
Yes.
when they looked at all that,
Mhm.
did they take that into consideration?
Well, they
Yes.
took the first part of it. I guess you told them to extend it all the way.
Yeah, what happens, the contract we have with them is only to, review our section of roadway, right? Now, I've had conversations with them, in fact, today, and said, I think that we're gonna wanna do the whole road, right? And if this all moves forward, then yes, they'll do the engineering for the remaining piece of the road and it'll all be bid as one package.
And it's my understanding that's gonna be our first project, right?
It's one of 4 or 5 different sections.
Does the county have anything planned on that road to be scheduled maintenance that this might affect?
No, not to my knowledge, yeah. And their road superintendent is aware of our plan, yes, so we notified them.
Did you have anything you wanted to say?
Don't think so, I mean, unless you guys have questions, I mean, Steve's kind of cleared it up on our end, where we understand the process and
I mean,
what's
it's,
proposed.
I'm excited about the addition to our city.
Oh, most definitely.
I spoke with quite a few people and I didn't have any objections to it at all. Everybody was positive about it.
Yeah, I believe so. Very welcome. Welcome in. So we are, a motion
Can I
to.
make one comment for the record? And, the police department piece is just one part of it, but it's a very important part, I think, clearly, we would be taking on some additional responsibility. It's a big acreage, there's business, and then the RV park as well. And Chief and I had met with Ryan previously, and we reviewed it pretty thoroughly, and we understand, yes, we're taking on more responsibility, but we also feel that we're capable of that. And you have anything to add on that point, Chief?
No, yeah, it's gonna be a strain initially, it's be patient with us. Because we're working on getting more officers and different things and they're hard to find right now, but I've been talking with Steve Roth a lot about different plans and I think me and Roth came up with a really good plan and it'd be good for the city and ultimately it's gonna be good for the department and they're gonna help us get more officers to where we can help serve the rest of the city even better. So initially, we're gonna have some growing pains with it, but I think overall for my department, it's gonna be good.
We already are searching for the 4th officer, so, and we'll probably immediately start searching for a 5th. Now, anything else, anybody? Questions? No? So we need a motion to
motion?
recommend.
Make a motion recommending to accept the request annexation to the village of Sunrise Beach.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. City manager report, you've already been doing
Yeah,
half of it, so.
I'll make it quick.
Okay,
Zoning map, I have sent that to our engineers, consultants to do the mapping. It was quite a project. I mean, we have a lot going on in the office. But it took a little time, but, what I sent to the engineers, I think is very thorough and complete. So we should have a new zoning map, easily by our next meeting. And we don't want to put a lot of stuff on our walls, but absolutely, we've got to put that zoning map up because we use it. And I think it will end up going over there. So that's done. As far as comprehensive plan, we talked about it last meeting. I thought it was a pretty good conversation. Unfortunately, find somebody to help us with it. I mean, yeah, you can hire consultants at a big cost, and I'm just not.
Do we
ready for
have to
that.
stay in the city limits to get somebody to help with that?
No,
I
of
mean,
course
can't we
not.
go out? There has to be some people that have done that before for other areas.
There are, but some of the stuff is kind of high price, and I just don't want to. I don't think that we have a need for a expensive consultant, in my opinion. At the same time, we do need some help. And so far, we just haven't found that.
Can we go to some of those, like the retired engineers organizations or something, somebody that's bored and kind of like me, wants to sit around and do something?
Wonder if there's any
As
comparable
long as they.
cities that would have a plan that you could access that you could maybe fine tune. I know we're a little unusual, but
Well, so Lake Ozark Council of Governments is the regional planning commission for Camden, Miller, and other counties. I don't know exactly which. And they have, in the past, they helped the city of Lake Ozark not too long ago with their comprehensive plan. And that was a nice plan. I looked at it. It really is, I think, pretty nice. And so I would love to have that assistance from them, but they are in this kind of transition phase. They're not well staffed at the moment.
I just wondered if there was like a boilerplate city plan website, where you could take a population, the area, the nature of the community,
Yeah.
and see what other
I
places.
doubt
had.
that with here. I mean, we're so underdeveloped right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
Look into that.
it's,
Yeah,
it'd be
I mean,
interesting to
I
get,
hear what you're saying. We do want to get it off center. I don't want to just keep talking about it and not going forward. But right now, unfortunately, we haven't, made that match. But it is important, and before we get into wholesale overhaul of our regs, we got to go through some of that planning process. So we'll get there.
Are there specific areas of what you have now that are more problematic than others? I mean, some sections you probably say, that's working fine, we don't even need to really alter that.
I just think our zoning regs in general need to be updated. I really do. It was 2009 since the last update of any, big size. It's 15 years ago. In general, I mean, honestly, our zoning code is okay. It's not, I wouldn't, it's fine. It's really not bad. It just needs to be tweaked and updated. And then how we handle new development is just not well, there's not a lot of code provisions that relate to it. If we had new commercial development, I'm not concerned. We'd handle it. It'd be fine. What concerns me probably more is like a new subdivision. We would manage it. I've done it. It's not that difficult, but I just think we need better, more clear procedures. So.
says miscellaneous items, reports. Anybody have anything in particular they want to discuss, or did you have something in mind that we needed to talk about?
Nope.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sally,